Okay. Hello, and the purpose of this video is to introduce the Gospel of Thomas. And the Gospel of Thomas is a New Testament Apocrypha text, which it contains 114 sayings of Jesus and is of Gnostic origin, right? And the copy that I'm going to be working with comes from earlychristianwritings.com, earlychristianwritings.com. And in that website, you can find the entire New Testament Apocrypha, right? The entire New Testament Apocrypha is there. All the books of the Thomas tradition are there. Gospel of Thomas, Infancy Gospel of Thomas, Book of Thomas the Contender, Apocalypse of Thomas, and Acts of Thomas are all there, right? And there is many others, many other good ones, like the Gospel of Peter is there, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the fragment of it, Gospel of Philip is there. Yeah, so you can find that there. I think they have a version of the Dietasaron of Tatian too, but I'm not sure. But you can find that there. Another good place to look though for stuff regarding like the Gospel of Thomas or any Gnostic Gospel is of course the Nag Hammadi Library. You can go there too, and they have a very good collection of Gnostic Gospels. There they have their really hardcore Gnostic stuff, like the Gospel of the Egyptians. You know, hardcore Gnostic. I'm not sure if the Nag Hammadi Library has the Gospel of Judas, because I think that National Geographic is pretty protective of Gospel of Judas, and I think for that you gotta go to like the National Geographic website to read it or whatever. So, but it's okay. I mean, you can find the Gospel of Judas on the internet too. Gospel of Judas uncovered in 2006. That's hardcore Gnostic, hardcore. I mean, Gospel of Judas and Gospel of the Egyptian are hardcore Gnostic, right? Gospel of Thomas is soft Gnostic, soft. You know, it's not, yeah, but it's Gnostic, but it's soft Gnostic. Anyways, I'm going to be reading some information about the Gospel of Thomas, and link it to the description. I will put links to the encyclopedia, the Wikipedia and Encyclopedia Britannica articles on the Gospel of Thomas, because they're very, very good. Lots of good information there. But for the purposes of this video, because I need to be brief, I am going to be reading a commentary by a scholar named Craig Schenck, which appears in the translation of the Gospel of Thomas in earlychristianwritings.com, that is attributed to Thomas Olamdin, who translated a Coptic version, and B.P. Grenfell and A.S. Hunt, who translated the Greek fragments, and Bentley Layton, who translated a Greek fragment, right? So this commentary is, the excerpts from this commentary appear in that translation, and I'm going to put a link in the description to that, right? But the translation that I am using, though, is not that one. For the purposes of the exegesis, the translation that I am using is actually the English translation of the Gospel of Thomas, Anonymous. The Anonymous translation is the one I'm using. This one right here, it says Anonymous, the Anonymous translation, right? The Anonymous translation is the one I'm using. So the one that is the English translation of Coptic by Lamdin and of Greek by Layton is the one where I am taking the commentary from, and that commentary was written by a scholar named Craig Schenck. So I'm going to just excerpt a little bit. The Gospel of Thomas is a collection of traditional sayings or logoi of Jesus. It is attributed to Didymus Judas Thomas, the doubting Thomas of the canonical Gospels, and according to many early traditions, the twin brother of Jesus. Didymus means twin in Greek, right? Thomas was probably first written in Greek, or possibly even Syriac or Aramaic, sometime between the mid-1st and 2nd centuries. Many sayings in Thomas have parallels in the New Testament sayings, especially those found in the Synoptic Gospels. This leads many to believe that Thomas was also based on the so-called Q document, along with Matthew, Luke, and Mark. And indeed, some have speculated that Thomas may in fact be Q. So some people believe that the Gospel of Thomas is the Q document itself. That's a hypothesis, right? Right. The Gospel of Thomas has no narrative connecting the various sayings. It is simply a list of 114 sayings. The Gospel of Thomas seems to preserve earlier traditions of Jesus than the New Testament. So earlier traditions of Jesus probably that existed in the 1st century congregation or even slightly before that. So like the primitive the primitive Christology. The primitive Christology is preserved in the Gospel of Thomas. Some hypothesize, right? The Gospel of Thomas, I want to make this clear, it is clearly Gnostic in nature, okay? It is clearly Gnostic in nature. It is a Gnostic gospel. But like I said, I don't think it's a hardcore Gnostic gospel, because if you compare it to, like, you know, the Gospel of Judas or the Gospel of the Egyptians, which are hardcore Gnostic, I mean, the Gospel of Thomas reads soft. And all the books in the Thomas tradition are really soft, you know. And I wouldn't say, for example, that the infancy Gospel of Thomas is really Gnostic. To me, that sounds more proto-Catholic, but I'm not a scholar. I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm not a New Testament Apocrypha scholar. You would have to ask a New Testament Apocrypha scholar what they think about the 5 books of the Thomas tradition, you know. But my humble opinion is that, you know, infancy Gospel of Thomas is probably not that Gnostic. Book of Thomas the Contender is. Apocalypse of Thomas is really the original eschatology, you know, the primitive eschatology, very primitive eschatology. You know, before Revelation, before Daniel, it was Apocalypse of Thomas. And then ultimately, you know, the Acts of Thomas is more associated with the Syriac church. And so, you know, yeah, there is this Thomas tradition, but I don't think these Gospels are really related to each other in any way, you know. But yeah, but scholars believe that the Gospel of Thomas is Gnostic in origin. Yeah, anyways. And this is the part that concerns tarot exegesis, which is the exercise in this channel. The sayings are not intended to be interpreted literally, as their New Testament parallels often are, but to be interpreted symbolically, as attested by saying number 1. And saying number 1, of course, is a very famous saying. It's a very famous saying. And he said, whoever finds the interpretation of these sayings will not experience death, right? So that's the first saying. For example, thus in saying 114, it is to be understood that male symbolizes the pneumatic, spiritual, or Gnostic Christians, and female symbolizes the psychic, unenlightened, or Orthodox Christians, rather than actually referring to males and females. And yeah, I mean, back in the day when this gospel was put together, it was a sexist society. So, you know, they interpreted female, they associated female with unenlightened and male with spiritual or enlightened. I think that was racist, not racist, that was sexist, you know, misogynistic even. But again, remember, this gospel was written between 50 and 140 AD. I mean, back then, you know, women weren't exactly, you know, it was a slave society. I mean, women had a very low status in the social scale. So that is why, you know, unfortunately in this gospel, female is associated with unenlightened. I would say the opposite, that female is enlightened and male is unenlightened. That's what I would do. But again, that would be like, you know, imposing modern standards of political correctness backward, you know, like 1,000 years. That's probably not a good thing to be doing. So anyway, but that's just my opinion. Of the 114 sayings in the complete work and all of the fragments of the Greek text, the Greek version contains one saying not found in the Coptic version, which comes between sayings 32 and 33 of the Coptic version. So that's a neat, yeah, so the Greek version contains one extra saying, but the original, I would say the Coptic is probably the original, you know, it's 114. That's what I'm going to go by in this exegesis. When I get to that point, because obviously the English translation of Gospel of Thomas is based on the Greek, I don't think in that translation they included that extra saying. But if when I get to it, between sayings 32 and 33, I'll do it. I'll go ahead and do the exegesis on using tarot, but I will say, you know, this is like a, you know, not necessarily spurious, but this is an extra saying that doesn't appear in the Coptic, okay? So we're clear. All right. So anyways, that was the introduction to the Gospel of Thomas, and there will be information in the description about it, links to where you can go to inform yourself about it more. Gospel of Thomas. The chief gospel in the Thomas tradition. Okay, and now since this is a tarot exegesis thing, let's let the tarot talk to us. What does the tarot of the Egyptians have to say about the Gospel of Thomas? And I cut the cards, and I'm picking the middle pile, and I'm going to put a card from there, and let's see what it says. Wow, victory, huh? The chariot, huh? This is what the Lo Escarabeo deck has to say about the Gospel of Thomas. It says the Chariot. So it's a card of victory. You want whatever comes to your mind when you see this card, that's the interpretation for you. Okay. Let's see. And again, I'm going to put links in the description to where you can buy these decks, right? These decks are published, the Lo Escarabeo Tarot, Egyptian Tarot is published, of course, by, Lo Escarabeo in Torino, Italia. So, and let's see what the Thoth Tarot has to say. The Aleister Crowley's tarot deck, what it has to say to us. So I'm cutting the cards. I'm going to cut the cards into 3 piles, and the middle pile will tell us what Aleister Crowley's deck wants to tell us about this tarot deck. And okay, let's do it again because I did it wrong here. Let's pick out 3 cards here. Let's cut the cards. We cut the cards into 3 piles, 3 piles, right? 3 piles. Oh, that fell out. Okay, whatever. There's 1 pile, 2 pile, 3 pile. I get the middle pile. I pick out a card from the middle pile. Let's see. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Card is not a good card. Whatever that, these cards are. I want something more uplifting for the public. Okay, good. The Magician. That's much more uplifting. Yeah, I know. You guys are gonna say you're supposed to take the first card that comes out. You're not supposed to take the tarot. You're not supposed to do what you don't want to do or whatever. Yeah, that card. These cards that are coming out. If it's not uplifting, I'd rather not, because I don't want to communicate or project energies that are bad. Or whatever. Anyways, this is a good one. This is a good card. The Magician. The Magician, right? The Magician is number 1. He has moved beyond the 0, which is the beginning, into 1, which is the point, right? And actually, in the esoteric theory of this, it says here, the next step must be the idea of position. One must formulate this thesis. If there is anything except nothing, it must exist within this boundless light, within this space, within this inconceivable nothingness, which cannot exist as nothingness, but has to be conceived of as nothingness composed of the annihilation of 2 imaginary opposites. Thus appears the point, which has neither parts nor magnitude, but only position. And that is what the Magician represents, right? Yeah. So the point, right? After the 0, before the line is the point, right? For the 0 to turn into a line, you need the point in between. So that's it. Yeah. So that's what the Thoth Tarot is telling us about this video. Anyways, that's it. I was just introducing the Gospel of Thomas. See you in the next video where we start doing the actual exegesis. Okay, bye.